You ever catch something mid-conversation that freezes your whole world for a second? That was me. One moment I was sipping whiskey by the bar at my sister's wedding, tucks too tight, shoes killing me, doing my best to smile through endless small talk with people I barely recognized. The next, I overheard a drunken whisper that pulled the floor out from under me. You know, it's crazy, this was supposed to be his wedding, right? That's what the man said. Low and slow, like he wasn't sure if it was funny or tragic. He was talking to another relative, both of them half in the bag, hunched close over their drinks. I didn't recognize the guy, some distant cousin from the old side of the family we didn't see much anymore. At first, I thought I misheard. Laughed it off. Thought maybe he meant I'd been with the bride's best friend once, I hadn't, or that I was one of those older brothers who never got around to settling down. People like to make weird jokes at weddings. I get it. But then he followed it up with something else. They really thought it would work, man. What were they thinking? And that's when something in me clicked. Not a full picture, just a chill at the base of the spine. A wrongness I couldn't explain yet. I didn't say anything. Just stepped away from the bar, headed out toward the patio for air. The reception was still in full swing, music, laughter, clinking glasses. My sister was stunning, glowing in a way that didn't feel put on. Her new husband, a guy none of us really knew, looked proud as hell. They were surrounded by old friends, family, a few work people. Nothing out of place. But now I couldn't shake the feeling something was. And then I started noticing it. The sideways glances. The tight smiles. A few people I hadn't seen in years who didn't quite meet my eye. My Uncle Arthur tried to start small talk, then halfway through a story about fishing in Tahoe, just stopped and said, "Well, time moves on, huh?" Then wandered off without finishing the thought. My cousin Liana gave me this weird, pitying hug. "You holding up okay?" she asked. I blinked. Why wouldn't I be? She opened her mouth, then shut it again. Never mind. And the whole night started feeling like a dream I couldn't wake up from. I wasn't sure what I was chasing. Just that something had been said behind my back, maybe years ago, and now it was all coming home. I caught my mom by the dessert table and asked her straight up, "What's with everyone tonight?" She stiffened. "What do you mean?" "I don't know. Just, people acting weird. Toward me." She forced a smile. "They're just happy for your sister. It's a big day." Then she turned and walked away like the question never happened. And that's when I knew. Knew without knowing, you know? Like your gut fills in the blanks before your brain catches up. Later that night, after the bouquet toss and the cake, I caught my dad alone out on the side lawn. Smoking, like always. Said he quit, but we both knew better. "You alright, son?" he asked, squinting up at me through the smoke. "No," I said. "Not really. What the hell's going on?" He looked at me for a long time. Longer than a man looks at someone he can still lie to. And then he said the one thing that changed everything. "Talk to your mother." I did. Cornered her in the coat room, of all places. And she broke. It wasn't screaming or sobbing, just quiet. Almost too quiet. "There was an arrangement," she said. "A long time ago. Something your grandfather pushed for. It wasn't meant to be cruel. It was cultural. A legacy thing." I stared at her. "An arrangement? For who?" She didn't answer. So I said the words out loud. Just to see how they tasted. "You wanted me to marry my sister." She flinched. "You're not blood. You're not biological siblings. We adopted her when she was 5. You were 8. That didn't make it any better. But we grew up together," I said. "She's my sister." Her voice cracked then. "I know. We never told you. Neither of you remembered. You were just kids. It was something old-fashioned, a family pact. But your sister, she found out. A few years ago. We didn't mean for her to. Is that why she left? I asked. Why she moved across the country, stopped calling me, skipped Christmas 3 years in a row. My mom didn't answer. Just looked down at her hands. She didn't want to be a part of it, I said, mostly to myself. Didn't want anything to do with the family after that. She still loves you, my mom said softly. No. No, that's not what love looks like. I walked out of that room and back into the party and everything looked different. Every photo, every speech, every toast. All of it was built on the bones of something I didn't know was there. The next morning, after the wedding, I found a letter in my coat pocket. It was from her. No envelope. Just a folded note on heavy paper, written in her handwriting. All it said was, "You were the only good part of my childhood. I had to walk away from them to keep that part of you safe. Please don't hate me." I sat with that letter for a long time. Didn't cry. Didn't scream. Just sat. And that's how this all started. You ever wake up feeling like your whole life shifted overnight, but nothing in the room changed? The sunlight looked the same pouring through the curtains. My suit was still crumpled on the chair, the smell of cologne and whiskey clinging to it like a bad memory. But something was gone. Maybe trust. Maybe the last piece of childhood that hadn't already been cracked. I checked my phone first thing. A few texts from cousins about breakfast plans, one from a buddy who'd left early, crazy night, huh? Nothing from my sister. Not that I expected it. The letter was still in my jacket pocket. I pulled it out again, read it one more time. You were the only good part of my childhood. I kept hearing that line in my head. Over and over. Trying to make sense of it. We used to be close, me and her. Not always in a loud way. But the kind of quiet closeness where you just knew when something was off. We'd sit on the porch together, play cards, talk about college, life, the future. She told me once she wanted to be a vet. I laughed and said I wanted to open a bar. I never did, but she never became a vet either. Instead, she drifted. First emotionally, then physically. Moved out of state. Cut contact, except for the occasional birthday text. Mom always made excuses. She's busy, or, you know how she is. But I think deep down, I knew there was something more. I just didn't know it had to do with me. At the breakfast buffet, everyone acted like nothing happened. Toasts and mimosas, folks in hangovers and smiles. I scanned the room, and every glance I caught felt loaded now. Like they were waiting for me to figure it out, or hoping I wouldn't. I cornered Aunt Mara near the coffee station. She was always blunt, the type to tell a kid when they'd gained weight or ask if your girlfriend was white or something else. Tell me something, I said. Back in the day, did Grandpa really try to set something up between me and her? She blinked, like she wasn't expecting it from me. Then she sighed. He was old school. Thought it was smart, keeping things in the family. You were adopted, she was adopted. Figured it wouldn't matter. But it does, I said. She nodded. Yeah. To you. To her, especially. She hated it once she figured it out. Hated him for planting that seed. Hated your parents for not saying no. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. She told you? I asked. Bits and pieces. Right before she left. She was scared. Not of you. Just, of staying. That hit harder than I expected. She said you were the only one who never looked at her like she was owed. You just treated her like a person. I couldn't respond to that. Just stood there, feeling like someone had hollowed me out. The rest of that day was a blur. I left the hotel early, didn't say goodbye to half the people I was supposed to. On the drive back, I kept thinking about the little things. Times my parents told me not to date anyone seriously. That weird conversation when I was 21 where Dad asked if I'd ever felt anything for her, like it was some offhand question, not a landmine. I'd laughed it off. Thought it was just him being weird. But now I wasn't so sure. I got home that night and sat in the dark for a long time. Didn't turn on the lights. Just let the silence sit. She never told me. I don't blame her for that. What do you even say? Hey, remember when we were kids? They were planning to marry us off like some twisted family tradition. Maybe she thought I'd be angry. Or maybe she didn't want to see the look on my face if I didn't believe her. I believed her now. And I wished like hell I could call her. Ask if she was okay. Ask if she forgave me, not for anything I did, but for not knowing. For not asking the right questions. For being too trusting of a story I was handed when I was too young to question it. That night, I put the letter back in the jacket. Left the jacket hanging by the door. Like maybe someday, she'll visit. And I can hand it to her. Or maybe I'll just keep it there. As a reminder of the kind of silence that echoes louder than any scream. A few days went by. I didn't talk to anyone. Not my parents. Not my sister. Not even my closest friends. I went to work, came home, cooked the same sad dinners I always made. But something in the routine had cracked. Like I was watching my life through a window instead of living in it. I started digging. Not out of paranoia, not exactly. More like I needed to know what was real. What memories were mine, and what had been shaped for me. I went through old photo albums. Ones my mom had made back when we still printed pictures. There were birthdays, holidays, a few school events. In almost every shot, we were side by side. Me and her. My sister. In one, I'm holding her hand in front of a Christmas tree. I'm 10, maybe. She's 7. We're both wearing matching sweaters, the kind Grandma used to knit before her hands gave out. I remember that day. I remember it clearly. I remember her crying in the hallway before dinner because someone told her she had to act like a lady. I didn't know what that meant back then. I just remember hugging her and saying, "You don't have to be anything. Just be you." And now I wonder who said it. Wonder if that was one of those moments. A nudge. A push. A grooming of some kind. There were other things. More subtle. Like how she was never allowed to go to summer camp. Not once. I asked my dad once why, and he said, "She needs to stay close. Family comes first." At the time, I thought it meant he was protective. Thought maybe she was fragile, or they worried she'd get homesick. Now I'm not so sure. Then there was that weird trip we took to visit my grandparents' village, the old country, as they called it. I was 12. She was 9. I remember feeling like we were on display. The elders kept patting us on the back, asking if we got along, calling us the pride of the family. At one point, I remember an old woman, great-aunt someone, pinching my cheek and saying in a thick accent, "Soon, there'll be one." At the time, I thought she meant we'd be close. Like siblings should be. But now, those words sit heavy. Mean something else entirely. I called my aunt, the only one I halfway trusted, and asked if she remembered that trip. She went quiet on the phone. "They tried to play matchmaker," she said finally. "Not just with you two. It's an old mindset. Keep it in the family. Keep blood strong, even if the blood wasn't really shared." "But we were kids," I said. "We were raised together. Doesn't that count for something?" "It should have," she said. "But when people want to control a legacy, they stop seeing children as people." They start seeing them as pieces on a board. That night, I dreamed about a game of chess. Except all the pieces had faces. Mine. Hers. My parents. My grandparents. Everyone smiling while someone else made the moves. I woke up feeling like I hadn't slept at all. There was one moment from our teenage years that came back stronger than the rest. It was the summer before she left for college. We were sitting on the back porch, just the two of us. The air was heavy, hot. Fireflies were blinking in the yard. She was quiet. Not sad, just far away. "You ever feel like we were supposed to be something we didn't choose?" she asked. I laughed. "What, like accountants?" "No. I mean, like our lives were already written." I shrugged. "Aren't they? Parents pick the school, the rules, the curfew. We just follow the script." She didn't laugh. Just stared out into the yard. I asked her what she meant, but she brushed it off. Said she was just tired. Said maybe she needed to start over somewhere no one knew her. I thought it was about the usual stuff. Growing up. Moving out. Figuring life out on her own. But maybe she already knew. Maybe that was her goodbye, and I just didn't hear it. I waited a week before going back. Couldn't bring myself to do it sooner. Every time I thought about that house, about the way they looked at me when the truth came out, I felt like I couldn't breathe right. But something was still unfinished. So I drove over one Sunday, like I used to. Same cracked driveway. Same porch swing that creaked in the wind even when no one was on it. The place looked exactly the same. But I didn't. My dad was in the garage, fiddling with his old radio. That thing had been broken since I was a teenager. But he always messed with it when he didn't want to talk. I leaned against the doorway and waited until he noticed me. "You hungry?" he asked, like nothing had happened. "No," I said. "You got a minute?" He set the radio down slowly. Wiped his hands on an old rag. "You're here about what your mother said." "I'm here about what you didn't say," I replied. He didn't flinch. Just sighed. "Sit down, son." I sat on the old workbench while he stayed standing. That was his move, always keep the height advantage in a conversation. Even with his own kid. When Grandpa passed, he started, he left behind more than land. He left rules. Ideas. Traditions. Not all of them good ones. And one of those was marrying off his grandchildren like livestock. I asked. He winced. "It wasn't like that." "Then explain it to me. Because that's how it feels." He rubbed his face. Looked older than I remembered. "You weren't blood. Neither was she. It wasn't about that. It was about unity. Keeping the family intact. Making sure what he built didn't fall apart when he was gone." "So you thought pairing us up was a way to protect the family?" "That's what he thought," he said. "I didn't fight it hard enough. I'll admit that." I stared at him. "Did you ever think about what we wanted?" "You were children," he said. "We're adults now. And you still kept it from us." He looked at the floor. "She found out before you did. We weren't supposed to tell either of you. Not until the time was right. But she snooped through some old documents. Family letters. She saw what was written." "What did she say?" "She said if that was what this family stood for, she wanted no part of it." That hit like a gut punch. Because that meant she left not because of me, but maybe in spite of me. "She asked us not to tell you," he added. "Why?" He shrugged. "Said it would hurt you. Said you didn't deserve to carry the weight of our mistakes." I sat with that for a long time. Then I said the one thing I'd been afraid to say out loud. "Did she ever wonder if I knew? If I was part of it?" He didn't answer right away. "I think that's what scared her the most," he said finally. That broke something in me. Because no matter what I say now, no matter how many times I insist I had no idea, there's always going to be a part of her, and maybe a part of me, that wonders. What if I had known? What if, deep down, I did feel something? We were kids. Raised as siblings. But the lines, they weren't always clean. We weren't taught to question the way we were brought up. And now every memory, every laugh, every hug has a question mark beside it. I left the garage without saying goodbye. He didn't stop me. I don't know if I'll ever go back. But that night, I dreamed of her again. Not as she is now, but how she looked when we were kids. Sitting beside me on the curb, eating popsicles. She turned to me and said, "Do you remember when we didn't know any better?" And I said, "I remember. I wish we never had to learn." It wasn't where I expected it to be. Not in a journal. Not in an email. Not even addressed to me, technically. I was cleaning out the attic at my parents' place, partly looking for distraction, partly hoping for answers. They'd kept most of our childhood stuff up there, like they were trying to preserve a version of life that never really existed. I found an old box labeled with her name, school papers, drawings, a few trinkets. It was near the bottom, under a stack of dusty yearbooks and some broken Christmas lights. The letter was folded into an old composition notebook from 8th grade. I almost didn't notice it. The paper was yellowed, creased in half, tucked between pages filled with class notes and doodles. At first glance, it looked like a list. But when I read it, I realized it wasn't. It was a goodbye. I know they'll never understand why I have to leave. Maybe they don't even want to. Maybe they'll just call me ungrateful or selfish or broken. But I can't keep pretending this is normal. I can't keep pretending we're a family when everything underneath is twisted. They told me this was love. That family is love. But love doesn't come with rules and expectations and quiet plans behind your back. I don't blame him. I can't. He never looked at me like I was a thing to be claimed. He just saw me for who I was. Not who I was supposed to be. That's what makes this so hard. I wish I could tell him why I'm really going. But if he knew, I think it would break him. And I need him to stay whole. So I'm leaving this behind, in case someday he finds it. Maybe he'll hate me. Maybe he'll think I was a coward. But maybe, just maybe, he'll understand. I have to go. Before they decide who I'm supposed to become. I sat there in the attic, holding that piece of paper, and for the first time in a long time, I felt the weight of everything settle in my chest. She'd been carrying this alone. For years. While the rest of us lived in the lie. While I tried to call, text, keep some kind of connection alive, she was out there building a new life out of nothing, just to stay free. And all this time, I thought she left because of me. But the truth is, she left for me. So I wouldn't get dragged into it. The part that cuts the most is knowing she didn't trust them enough to believe they wouldn't go through with it. And maybe she was right. Because if she hadn't found that old letter, if she hadn't run when she did, who knows? Who knows what might have happened? I folded the page and kept it. Not to show them, they don't deserve it. But for myself. As proof that I wasn't crazy. That there was something real between us, even if it got twisted by people who thought legacy was more important than love. That night, I sat on my porch with a drink in my hand and the letter in my pocket. And for the first time since the wedding, I let myself cry. Quiet. No sobs. Just the kind that sneak out when no one's looking. I don't know if I'll ever see her again. But I hope, wherever she is, she knows I found it. And I understand now. It's funny how the mind works. You can live an entire life thinking certain memories are random, meaningless. A look, a sentence, a skipped event. But once the truth cracks open, those moments come flooding back like water through a broken dam. There was a family meeting once. I must have been 11. My parents called it after dinner, told both of us to sit in the living room, me on the left couch cushion, her on the right. They sat across from us, serious, like they were announcing a funeral. I thought maybe someone had died. But it wasn't that. Dad started talking about responsibility. Mom kept using words like loyalty and bond. At one point, she looked right at us and said, "You two are our future." I remember glancing at my sister. She looked confused. Scared, maybe. Or just tired. The conversation didn't go anywhere. It just drifted. They never said exactly what they meant. And when we got up to leave, Mom kissed us both on the forehead and said, "One day, you'll understand." That night, I had a nightmare I couldn't explain. Something about being locked in a room with no doors. Just walls and mirrors. And every mirror showed a different version of her, crying, angry, silent, gone. I told myself it didn't mean anything. Just a dream. But now, it's one of the clearest things I remember from that age. And there were other moments. Subtle things. When I was 17, I started dating a girl from school. Nothing serious, just a few months. My mom sat me down and said she didn't approve. Not because of the girl. Not even because of school or grades. She said, "You don't need distractions right now. You've got a role to play." I asked her what that meant, but she brushed it off. Just stay focused. There's time for all that later. I thought she meant college. I thought she meant the usual parental pressure. But now, I'm not so sure. Even my sister started pulling back around that time. She got quiet. Distant. We used to talk about everything, movies, music, dumb jokes from class. But then she started spending more time in her room. Started writing in a journal she never let anyone see. Started asking questions about adoption, about family history, about who her real parents were. She told me once she wanted to take a DNA test. I laughed and said, "You looking for buried treasure or something?" She didn't laugh back. She just said, "No. I'm looking for an answer." I didn't understand then. I do now. She was trying to find a way out before the walls closed in. I think the part that hurts most is knowing I never saw it. I never reached out. I just let the distance grow and assumed it was normal. Teen stuff. Growing pains. But it wasn't. It was survival. And now, years later, I'm the one standing in the silence. Trying to make sense of what's left. Trying to piece together a story that was never mine to begin with. I thought I'd buried this long ago. But you don't bury something like this. You just carry it. Quieter, maybe. But always there. And the more I remember, the heavier it gets. I didn't know where to start. "I'm sorry" felt too small. "I didn't know" felt like a lie, even if it was the truth. I sat at the kitchen table one night, pen in hand, blank page in front of me. The house was quiet. The kind of quiet that's almost too loud, like everything you didn't say starts echoing off the walls. I wrote her name at the top. Then I sat there for an hour. I thought about starting with childhood. Reminding her of the good stuff. The summer we built a treehouse out of scrap wood behind the shed. The time we made paper boats and raced them down the storm gutter during a rainstorm. But it felt wrong. Like I was trying to drape nostalgia over something darker. So I tried being direct. I found the letter. The one in the notebook. Then I stopped. That felt too invasive. Like I'd crossed a boundary even in her absence. So I scratched it out. Eventually, I just wrote. I never saw it. I wish I had. I wish I had asked more questions. I wish I had understood what you were trying to survive. And that's where I stopped. The letter's still sitting in a drawer. Maybe one day I'll finish it. Maybe one day I'll send it. But for now, it just exists, like a thought you can't bring yourself to say out loud. I think the hardest part of all this is realizing I'm not angry at her. Not even a little. I'm angry at them. At the ones who twisted love into obligation. Who used tradition as a shield for control. Who looked at two kids and saw opportunity instead of innocence. I saw my parents last week. It wasn't planned. I ran into them at the grocery store. Mom smiled like nothing happened. Dad gave me a nod, like we were still fine. I didn't say much. Just walked past them with a frozen pizza and a six-pack. But before I turned the corner, I looked back and said, she did the right thing. My mom's face dropped. Just for a second. Then she looked away. They know. They'll never say it out loud. But they know. And that's all I needed. I don't know where my sister is now. She didn't leave a forwarding address. Her number changed years ago. She doesn't show up on social media. Like she erased herself on purpose. But I hope she's out there. I hope she's living in a little apartment full of plants and books and quiet mornings. I hope she's found people who see her for who she is, not who she was supposed to be. I hope she laughs. Real laughs, not the kind we used to fake for family photos. And I hope, if she ever thinks of me, she knows I'm still here. Still trying to figure out how to unlearn everything they built around us. It's a question I don't like the answer to. For a long time, I told myself I would have never gone along with it. That I would have laughed if my parents tried to push the idea. That I would have protected her. That we were siblings, no matter what blood said, and that line was never meant to be crossed. But now I'm not so sure. Because the way they raised us, it blurred things. Subtly. Slowly. They never said it outright. Just left breadcrumbs. A comment here. You two are so close, there. Constant reminders that we were a unit. That we belonged to each other in a way other siblings didn't. When we were kids, that just meant closeness. But by the time we were teenagers, it started to feel different. Not inappropriate. Not overt. But strange. Like they were waiting for something to happen. Like they were planting something and hoping it would bloom. And if she hadn't found out first, if she hadn't left when she did, maybe I would have just kept walking that path. Blind. Complacent. Groomed. I hate that word. But I think it's the right one. Because that's what this was. Not a plan. Not a tradition. A grooming. Dressed in old language. Wrapped in family pride. Carried out in silence. I started going through more old things. Notes, cards, school projects. I found one she made in middle school, a drawing of a house, with 4 stick figures in front. Me, her, Mom, Dad. She gave us all names. Real ones. Except for me. She wrote "Anchor" over my head. I asked her once why she called me that. She said, "Because you keep me steady." At the time, I thought it was sweet. Now it feels heavier. Like she needed me more than I ever realized. And I didn't see it until it was too late. I think part of me still wanted to be that anchor. Even now. Even after everything. But anchors don't move. They stay in one place. They hold things down. Maybe that's why she had to leave me too. So she could float. It was a postcard. No return address. No signature. Just a photo of a cliffside, all ocean and gray sky, with handwriting on the back I knew by heart. I saw the news about Grandpa. I'm sorry. I hope you're okay. That was it. No, how are you? No, I miss you. Just that single line, written like she was testing the distance, seeing if the space between us still held or had collapsed. I stared at it for a long time. No idea how she got my address. Maybe she kept track in secret, same way I did. I've Googled her name more times than I care to admit. Always found nothing. She's good at staying gone. But now, this? It felt like a crack in the wall. I didn't tell my parents. They'd only ruin it, twist it into something it wasn't. They think time heals all things. But time just covers rot with dust. It doesn't undo anything. Later that night, I took the postcard out again and just stared at her handwriting. I thought about calling. But I don't have a number. I thought about writing back. But I don't have an address. All I have is a few words and a place that might not even be real. But for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel completely alone. Maybe that's enough. Maybe not. I sat out on the porch for hours that night. Just me, the card, and the quiet hum of the streetlight. I thought about all the versions of us that could have been. If we'd been raised different. If we'd been told the truth. If we'd been allowed to grow up like siblings and nothing more. I still don't know what we were. I still don't know what we are. But she reached out. And now I know she's still out there. Some stories don't end. They just get quieter. The questions don't get answered, you just stop needing them to be. A few months have passed since the wedding. Since the letter. Since the postcard. I haven't heard from her again. Sometimes I check the mailbox and wonder if another card will show up. Something with more than a sentence. Something with a name. But it never does. And I don't chase it. Not anymore. Because I think I finally understand. She didn't leave to disappear. She left to live. And part of living meant leaving me behind, not out of anger, not out of hate, but because I was part of the cage. Even if I never meant to be. The past isn't a clean thing. It's messy. It stains. Even when you wash it, it leaves something behind. I carry it now. Quietly. Like an old scar I don't talk about. People still ask about her sometimes. Friends. Extended family. They wonder why she's never around. I just say she moved away, got busy, built a life. It's not a lie. Just not the whole truth. There's a box in my closet with the letter I found, the postcard, and a few old photos of us as kids. I don't look at it often. But I don't throw it away either. Maybe one day I'll see her again. Maybe we'll sit on some porch somewhere and talk about anything but this. Or maybe we'll never speak again. And if that's the cost of her peace, then so be it. She deserved a better childhood. We both did. But she got out. And maybe that's the best ending this story could have.